Here we are at our example 1 from our 4.1 set of notes. Now to help us out, what we're going to go ahead and do is look at our definition for a standard form. As we've graphed it in the past with the table of values, it does take that form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where simply a, b, and c are just some numbers. So, like for example, they can be integers, positive and negative whole values, or fractions. So they are some real numbers. Okay. And to kind of help us out with kind of the shape of those u's that we've gone ahead and graphed, the a value, this guy right here in front of our x squared term, actually controls quite a bit. And as you guys can see, according to the definition, if a is bigger than 0, then that would imply that a is a positive value here. And if you look back at some of your graphs that you guys have done with the table, you would see a u doing something like that. So as you guys can see, it opens up. And as a result, the graph then has a minimum value with that. And so that's kind of where that minimum is showing up. Alternatively, if a is less than 0, then that would imply that a is a negative value, in which case you would see a u that's going down. So our parabola is that u that's facing down. And as a result, consequently, the graph would have a maximum value. So again, that's just kind of our definitions to help us out in terms of looking at our equation, and then just based solely upon the a value, that controls quite a bit of how your general shape of your graph is going to look. Now let's go ahead and use that information then to determine, for example 1, if they each have a minimum or a maximum value here. So as we look at example 1, the first equation we see is y equals negative 3x squared plus 6x plus 8. Again, we really only care about this a value. And because a here is less than 0, you should see a u facing something like that, because it's facing downward. And consequently, you would have a maximum value there. Now, as we look at the second one, we have an a value that is 10. So we should see a u facing upwards, which creates that minimum value. And lastly, we see our a value in front of our x squared is 3/4. Now, just because it's a fraction, that doesn't mean that it's facing up or down. It does mean some other things that we'll talk about later on. However, because it is positive, we do see a u facing upwards, thus giving us that minimum value. So again, though, that is our example 1 from our 4.1 set of notes.